Here are some of the signposts of a new direction. Your ego is less insistent on having attention placed on it. There was a time when I could dominate every conversation, no matter where I was, no matter who I was with, and if I was with my wife or whatever. And I could be glib and verbal and use quotations and talk and get people to gather around and endlessly take the spotlight. Today I find myself hardly ever talking. I just love to sit back and watch and listen and observe and notice. Secondly, doing less, not more. Letting go and letting God becomes easier for you. Practicing non-interference. Boy, when I was writing Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life and living that part of the Tao, I remember reading one of the verses and thinking, it says, great sages do nothing, and because they do nothing, they get so much more done. And I just couldn't wrap my head around that, or my consciousness around that I could do less and get more done. I mean, we've grown up in a world where you have to go out and do more in order to get more. It says in the Tao, great sages accomplish great things by thinking small, rather than thinking big. That a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And the great sage just thinks of the single step and where they are. You get to a place where you're not trying so hard, but you're not failing at anything. You're just producing results, and you're not willing to judge the results, and it gets easier, trying less. You begin to shun the spotlight. You begin to practice what the Tao taught me to practice, which is radical humility. Not taking credit, giving other people credit, not needing to have other people tell you how wonderful you are. Just simply practicing what the ocean teaches us. Stay low and let everything come to you. Unity begins to replace separation. Conflict then is eliminated. Remember, the mind at war with itself can never know God. Because knowing God means knowing oneness. And oneness means nothing to be in conflict with. You cannot be in conflict when you have oneness. There's only one. And we begin to see ourselves as connected to everything. Now, also on this voyage of two, and I just have to speak a few moments about this, it is what I call the fall. Virtually every spiritual advance that I've ever made in my life has been preceded by a fall of some kind or another. And I think you can expect a fall. And when you're in one, when you're in a low point, when you're struggling, the Tao says that built into all misfortune is good fortune. And built into all good fortune is misfortune. So that when you're in a place of misfortune, low, your relationship isn't working, the finances aren't coming, the news about your body, the medical diagnosis, things aren't the way you want them to be, all of the falls. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross had a wonderful quote. She said, if you shield the mountain from the windstorms, you'll never see the beauty of the carvings. So the idea really isn't to try to eliminate the storms of your life. The idea is to learn how to sing in the rain, how to dance in the storms, and be willing to go into the storm. And the final thing about this journey back, I talked about it in the film, it's called the quantum moments. And these are moments in our lives that really shift us, and they almost always come after a fall. So you have the fall, that as you have one of these falls, what you are doing is you are generating energy to propel yourself over the bar. If you remember in the film, I spoke about the night that I had one of the most shameful nights of my life when I required my wife and our 5 little children. We had 5 children in 8 years, and they had closed the bar at the restaurant because someone the night before had served someone underage, and they wouldn't give me a beer with my meal. And I made everybody in the family be inconvenienced and get up and go to another restaurant because I was upset because I couldn't have my beer. Now that's a jerk. That's shameful behavior. It's hard for me to even admit it, but I'm better than I used to be. Now I'd only make them go 2 blocks instead of 3. No, I wouldn't do that. And that morning, after that fall provided me with the energy. I began to think about myself and what was I doing? How long has it been, Wayne, since you've gone without having a beer in the evening? I couldn't think of a day in the previous 2 decades. And what are you doing making your wife, who's had 5 children with you in 8 years, move? And you know what it means to move little children like that? You know, with all of the things that you have to take and put them in the cars and the seat belts and all of that, and none of it mattered to me. But that fall allowed me probably to be alive today. Because if I would have kept drinking the way I was, I wouldn't be alive today. It was going to kill me because alcohol's like sugar. I mean, and it's loaded with sugar, by the way. So these falls, when you have one, start looking for the energy and start seeing what it can bring to you as you move back.
Let's now examine the elements that most of us agree define the essence of our Creator, along with how they can help us sensibly approach Him. 1. God is love. We came from love, and we desire to return to that heaven while still on earth. I repeat Emerson's appropriate observation that love is our highest word and the synonym for God. In other words, if we dwell in love, we dwell in God. If God is love and cannot be anything other than what God is, and we wish to have a dialogue with God, then it seems to me that we come to our source in love or we're wasting our time. So in the private, quiet, prayerful moments of asking for God's help, don't ask Him to help defeat others in any way. Rather, pray, Dear God, make me an instrument of Thy love. I want to be like You. I have forgiven them, and I have forgiven myself. And remember that there can be no forgiveness without love. And without love, there can be no way of being heard by our source. 2. God is peace. One of the most quoted verses in the Old Testament, which may also be my favorite biblical offering, is this: Be still and know that I am God. So a corollary of this might then be agitated and turbulent, and you will never know God. Along with praying or communing with our source with peace in our heart, we must be still. This means taking time to get quiet before meditating, and also monitoring our breathing. As we exhale, we can train ourselves to let go of all of our non-peaceful thoughts, and as we inhale, we can breathe in spirit. We can keep reminding ourselves that all of the non-peace that's in the world is not of God, it's of ego. Then we can ask to be helped back to His peace. This approach will attract the assistance we're requesting. It's all about matching up the vibrational energy of our desire for peace with thoughts and behaviors that are consistently peaceful with those desires. 3. God is all-inclusive. We won't be heard by or receive assistance from our source if we're touting our separateness from our fellow humans. You see, when we seek special individual favors from God, or even when we seek to converse with our source from this perspective, we're once again living in illusion. If God were to acknowledge our belief in separation, perfect oneness wouldn't and couldn't exist. It's impossible for a source that creates everyone, and therefore is in everyone, to even have a dialogue with someone who's harboring ideas of their specialness or separation from everyone else. In conversing with our source, as always, we strive to be more like it. So we need to see ourselves as connected to everyone in the universe as we enter into prayer. Then we can ask for guidance and assistance in summoning the all-inclusive spirit. Make me an instrument of You. Allow me to see you in everyone I encounter. Help me to see myself in others and to extend first to them what I aspire to myself. I've noticed that this is how you are, and I wish to be just like you. The key is getting past your ego-based idea of separation and instead seeing yourself as a part of the oneness of all. As Thomas Aquinas put it so succinctly, true peace consists in not separating ourselves from the will of God. 4. God is abundance. As St. Paul once said, God is able to provide you with every blessing in abundance. So why is there so much apparent shortage in the world, including people starving and living in poverty, and millions of folks having the persistent problem of too much month left at the end of the money? Well, what I can say for certain is that God is not to blame. There's more than enough to go around. After all, we came from a place that knows nothing of deprivation, and we arrived on a planet that has the capacity to grow the food and slake the thirst of every one of its inhabitants many times over. As a species, we human beings have brought the ideas of deficiency and depletions of God's gifts on ourselves, largely by taking very ungodlike actions. God serves all of us, but our greed has made us forget others and focus only on ourselves. As a people and as individuals, we've brought lack to our lives, and we can only fix this deficiency by becoming more like our always serving, endlessly abundant spiritual source. The answers to the resolution of poverty and scarcity are readily available to us, and they'd be resolved tomorrow if we remembered that we're all one on this planet. We all share the same origins, and we all end up back in the same non-place where we began. When we return to spirit in our heart, our governments will align with this truth, and our leaders will emerge from in-spirit consciousness. And 5, God is well-being. Spirit never has a fever and knows nothing of illness. So in my humble opinion, it makes no sense to pray or engage in a discourse with God from a perspective of asking to be healed, unless, that is, we have a firm understanding of what we mean by the word heal. If we mean to overcome an illness or infirmity, then I feel that we're again violating the truism that nothing can be what it isn't, including God. On the other hand, if we use the word heal to mean reconnecting to our source of well-being, then we're open to the potential of receiving assistance to overcome any infirmity. And that's how I use the word. I never asked God to help me to get over a feeling of sickness. Even when I had a minor heart attack 5 years ago, I asked to be made an instrument of God's well-being. I acknowledged that my body had taken on non-well-being, be it from my lifestyle, diet, and habits, or the toxins I breathe in and out, whatever. It was not of God. It was of me in this physical world, and I prayed to be reunited to a stream of well-being. I knew that I was a piece of God, and it was just as easy for him to heal a cut on my finger as it was to restore my heart to a healthy state. Since I knew that God's healing power was within me, I just needed to help my body remember this.